Welcome to The Friday Habit with Mark Labriola and Benjamin Manley. The Friday Habit is for small business owners, freelancers, and creatives who are ready to take their business to the next level. Join us as we discover how to apply the strategies we learned to grow our businesses, make more money, and live every day like it's Friday. That's right. Another Friday Habit coming your way. And I am so happy to be here today. It's actually Monday when we're recording this episode, and I always like to say happy Monday. So if you're listening to this episode and it's Monday, happy Monday. Mondays are a great day, right? It's like the beginning of the week. You have so much opportunity to make a difference and have new experiences and fix anything that went wrong last week. So, hey, I'm excited for today's episode because we have a great guest. I'm thrilled to have Rebecca Leader on the podcast. She's the founder of Build Meaningful Careers and the author of the Knock Method. Rebecca specializes in helping professionals cultivate purpose-driven careers through connection and leadership. So, Rebecca, welcome to the Friday Habit.
Thank you, Mark. Excited to be here. And I am excited to be doing this interview on a Monday and living like it's Friday, as you say.
That's right. We're living every day. Well, Rebecca, there's a few things I want to talk about. I think a lot of the stuff that you have is valuable, and people who are in their careers trying to grow. I want to pick your brain about that, but I also just want to pick your brain about your business. And you and I met at the chamber. You were doing a talk, and I was like, "Oh, you would be great to have on this podcast." So, I'd first love to just dive into your business and how things are going with the business, and what are some of the things that you're working on, and maybe even just share a little bit of your story of how you even started your business and, got to where you're at. And then we can get into all the details about the Knock Method and all those other kind of things. So,
great. Thanks so much. Yes. So taking it back to when we met at the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, shout out to our local community chamber. It was an opportunity for me to share more about my business, which I'll do here today. And also there was speed networking, essentially. And so it was really awesome to meet you in that context. So happy to be here today. The title of my company, or my company is called Opportunities Knock. The website is buildmeaningfulcareers.com because that is our mission. We support students, teams, organizations, nonprofits, universities, even boards of different meaningful groups that are mission driven in building high quality, meaningful careers. And that applies to students who are in the process of figuring out their career path or want to learn the essential and durable skills, as we hear that more than we hear the term soft skills lately, to build those relationships so that they feel empowered, they have the skills and the confidence to reach out to someone at a company that they've always dreamed of working for, or someone that they went to high school with and now they work at a company that they have their sights set on. It may be someone within an organization who's looking for a mentor, wants to reach out to a manager or an executive within the organization, is looking for sponsorship to grow, or even for a nomination to a leadership opportunity internally. It might be someone who's looking to deepen relationships with their customers in a sales capacity or for customer success. Or it might be someone who's looking to grow in the leadership path, or it could be for someone who's looking to build those deeper connections if you're fundraising for a nonprofit, if you are an entrepreneur and you're building your own business. How might we knock and open the door intentionally with preparation, with research, and with a human-centric mindset so that it's not just self-serving, and it's opening the door so that different possibilities may emerge, and you may have some new ideas that could come up in ways that you could partner that you didn't know about when you first knocked.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I have a 16-year-old and he's a junior in high school, so we're starting to talk about college and what he wants to do. And it's hard. And I think back in even my own life, I vividly remember being a junior in high school. A lot of stuff happened in those years for me, and I remember my friends, all this stuff. But my son thinks I'm some irrelevant fuddy-duddy who doesn't know anything. And so I'm always like, hey, try to have as many experiences as you can so that you can just discover maybe something that you're interested in that you never even knew you liked. But he's pretty just focused on a particular thing, and he just is like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to do my thing that I want to do, and I want to take the easiest path, and I don't want to disrupt or have awkward conversations or go into a room of new people that I've never met before. So I think there's a lot of valuable because too, I would say there's this element, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're around this more than I am, but I feel like this younger generation, like they really haven't been taught those social skills. Like when I was a kid, I had to interact with adults, and I had to read books and go outside and play. And I didn't have YouTube and I didn't have video games. I mean, we had Nintendo and stuff like that, but nothing, hardcore. I feel like I run into so many iGens or Gen Z or whatever you want to call them, and they have a hard time shaking a hand. They have a hard time looking you in the eye. They have a hard time like carrying on a conversation. And so I feel that this is probably really needed for this next generation to like kind of develop those, what did you call them? Not soft skills, but
so durable skills and essential skills. Essential skills, and then if you go deeper, social capital skills, building relationship skills, communication skills. So it's all of those things, but they are durable. So you learn them, you refine them, you practice them. I practice them every day in my work. And they are essential. They are critical in order to collaborate, in order to find resources, in order to function in our society. So durable and essential skills.
Yeah. So do you see that this younger generation has a little bit of a catching up to do when it comes to that kind of stuff?
So I would say, and I'm really cautious to sort of bucket the generational
Yeah, of course,
piece.
because I remember when it was all about millennials, like 15, 20 years ago, it's like, oh, millennials don't want to work. And I'm a millennial, but I'm like an old millennial. I'm like the grandpa of the millennials, But still, I never really identified with what these older people were calling me back, 15, 20 years ago.
Totally. Now it's like you're identified by how tall your socks are. But I mean, I'm still coming around to the ankle socks. But yes, what I would say is I see a fear among that age group, so emerging into the teens and the 20s, and I believe it's because there haven't been experiences or opportunities or a priority in many cases to be able to practice in a safe environment, to fail and to learn these skills. So that's one thing I've noticed. And one of the reasons why I developed the Knock method, which we can talk about, and wrote my book, was to help build confidence through building those skills. If we have the skills, if we have a set of resources we can lean on when we're feeling like, oh my gosh, I want to reach out to this person, but I'm totally nervous to do it, you can go back to this guide, you can go through the checklist, you can see examples, you can know that you're not alone and that a lot of people are looking for this. And you can have that confidence boost, but you also have the skills to be able to do it. The other thing I would add is that it's not just generational. There are people who have left the workforce between COVID, caregiving, life, moving, you name it, whatever their life circumstances have been, and now they're either re-entering in a new place, they're doing a career change. Maybe they're in new spaces and they want to build a community. I've done that. Shifting from working my whole career in marketing and digital marketing strategy into talent development, into career development, into learning design and learning and development. And that was a new career shift for me.
Right.
So I say that the Knock method, the tools, the workshops, the trainings, and the online courses that we deliver at Opportunities Knock is for career growers, career builders, and career changers. And it's not exclusive to age. And people will say, which industry, where's your focus? And I've worked with tech companies that are larger. I've worked with small companies. I've worked with college students and career services. Across the board, there are people who are looking to deepen relationships in their careers. So yes, there is a fear. In fact, I'll give you an example. I was fortunate to have a client where I led a workshop for a big company, and it was about connection. I was teaching these skills. And they wanted it to be interactive, so we had a breakout session within Zoom, and we had an exercise we were going to have people go through in small groups. And when we went to breakout sessions, we lost 50% of the attendees. And we did have a little bit of technical difficulty in the beginning of the session, so I thought that maybe that was why people just didn't stick with us. But I met with the organizer afterwards, and she said, this is typical of our workforce. And in that case, it may have been that kind of culture, but people are afraid to be, I don't believe it's dropped in, but dropped into a room with
Yeah.
people they don't know, and they don't know what to do. And I had a follow-up conversation with someone about this, and I said, why, like, where's this fear coming from? Why are we experiencing it? I want to create learning experiences that meet people where they are, that feel safe and comfortable, that are going to be meaningful. And this person said, well, what if I got dropped in with like an executive? And I said, great. Then you get
Yeah.
executive exposure. What do you mean? What if I get dropped? Then you can talk to a human. So
Yeah.
I don't think that it's exclusive to a specific generation. I think there have been a lack of opportunities and resources and focus and training in these areas. And so this is a gap that I wanted to fill and that I'm filling. I'm proud to fill. And it's easy. It's simple. When people learn it and they read it, they're like, oh, this is like common sense. I need to practice it, or I need to know that other people are trying to figure that out too. And I need just a little boost sometimes when I don't know who to go to. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a back pocket mentor, my book, and the resources within it. But yes, it's very prevalent, especially with this remote work. I've been remote for over 7 years. It works for me, but I feel that I get interaction in this way. I have coffee
Yeah.
meetings. I still see people in person. I do live trainings as well. But it's, when I started working for a big tech company several years ago, full time, the first day they shipped me my laptop, and I joined, met my manager, my director, who lived in a different state on day one, and it was remote. And a lot of people have that experience, and they
Right.
are like, they don't know who's who. How do I even navigate this new job, this organization? You can feel really isolated. So
Yeah, I
these
think that's really hard, right?
these
If
are
you're
huge issues.
remote, and you get sent that laptop, I feel like, especially when you're new somewhere, you get a lot of those social cues and how people interacting with each other, or how they're talking at when we're celebrating someone's birthday and eating birthday cake in the break room. It's like you have these forced connections essentially that slowly help you grow in an environment. And so, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting to think about as far as when you're doing something remote or working remote and you're interacting with people. Like, what are some things that you would say are ways that you can do that effectively via Zoom?
Sure. So when I was a manager of a team at the tech company, I was a small team, great team, and we would have our calls, our weekly touch points, and we would start with a little exercise. It could be any icebreaker, any topic, any question. But in this case, it was one win and one challenge. So we started off the call, and it might be a challenge in personal life, might be, something going on. It might be like I'm really trying to collaborate with this other team and I'm having a hard time getting on their calendar. It could be there's a personality conflict that I'm working through here. But one challenge and then one win. So tell us something great. Tell us something that's gone well for you. So just sort of the humanization and just having small moments of connection, because especially in this day and age where I say, like, let's say you have 8 calls in one day and they're all virtual, and so you realistically can have maybe 7, maybe 8 Zooms. If you go a half hour each, it's double that, and you're hopping from call to call, and you jump in, and then the person who's organizing the call just starts working, and you really just don't have the opportunity to get to know people. So I would say one way to do this is, if there are people that you feel like you want to learn from, that you have something to you kind of share and collaborate with them on, or someone who just kind of, you're like, wow, I really love how they navigate this organization with ease, or they've been here for longer. Maybe they have some tips for me on XYZ, or they have some ideas on how I could execute my work better. Then set up a virtual coffee chat. It can be 15 minutes. Usually they go over, but that's great. You can schedule another one. But schedule time one-on-one or schedule time in small groups.
Yeah.
And it can feel less overwhelming that way. And the biggest takeaway for the knock method, knocking is not like knocking on doors to make sales or to get exactly what you
Yeah.
want. It is to open the door for connection. And so just feeling excited, confident, and knowing that the power of the connection is greater than the risk if you don't take it.
Yeah.
So thinking of work relationships a little more like friendship, even if it's a manager, a director, an executive, finding commonality. That's the C in knock, in the knock method. So, Mark, you and I are both parents, so we have lots to share about the
Yeah.
parenting journey and the entrepreneur's journey and how those overlap and the trials and tribulations of that, but connecting over commonality, which requires some research.
Yeah.
But those are some small things that people
Yeah.
can do to connect.
I've always, it was told to me a long time ago, it's this idea of like reversal of desire, right? So like as a human, our desire is to protect ourselves and keep ourselves
Oh, yeah.
emotionally safe and physically safe.
Totally.
And so whenever I'm in a situation, like a social situation, or I'm maybe trying out a new product or service, and I'm afraid to like offer this to a potential client, like, hey, I'm moving from hourly to value-based pricing, and I'm moving from project-based to retainer. It's like, I might get rejected. And that's like my first feeling of like, I'm going to get rejected. I don't want to bring this up. And so for me, it's been a habit over the past, I would say like 15 years of pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Like that is a flag for me to say, oh, I'm feeling this way. So that means I need to do the opposite of what I'm trying
Totally.
to, the opposite of what I'm feeling. And so
Yes.
that's what it kind of sounds like in some ways. It's like, yeah, we don't want to be thrown in. And even like at the networking thing at the chamber, I think is really good, because you're kind of doing this little speed dating where, okay, I just have like 2 minutes and 30 seconds where I have to talk about myself, and then I can hear somebody else. And then if it's awkward, I can move on really quick and go. So I think that kind of builds that muscle, or helps you practice that
Yes,
exercise, which
totally.
the more you do it, the better you get at it. And it becomes easier and easier. And same thing, I do a lot of just networking events, because our business is all referral based. It's all about who I know and the relationships I've built over these years. And so I have to go to these places where I don't know anybody, and
Right.
I have to like figure out, okay, how can I connect, right, with each one of these people that I run into, and what are some things that I can either learn about them or offer them as value, and not always just trying to get their business card so I can sell to them.
Yeah, totally. And I was like that reversal is really interesting. So trying to sort of, how did you say it? Like
Reversal of desire, right?
of
My
desire.
desire is to protect
Interesting.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. The other part of that, so yes, it's that. And I would add, unless we never put ourselves in those situations, which inevitably we just are. Like you're at the grocery store and someone talks to you and you could not respond, but like, you're going to be put in
Yeah.
these situations. So every day and within work where someone's going to reach out to you and you're going to feel nervous about responding. But it's also like, these are going to happen. So then how can I boost my, like, if this is the baseline, it's going to happen. How can I boost my skills, my confidence, my abilities to feel more comfortable in those situations? So can I meet that opportunity? Can I rise to the occasion?
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I do is really trying to reassure people through examples, through stories of where I've tried and failed. And I do this all the time, and I write about it and I speak about it, and it is one of my strengths, but I still get nervous about reaching out
Yeah.
to some people, and I still wonder if I'm adding enough human connection in that outreach message, or if they're going to kind of get what I'm trying to sell or my value proposition, or to try to get buy-in. Even it's not even totally about selling, but when I'm building my business, how I'm trying to navigate these things, and so sharing that that everyone's going through it, but then giving them a template, skills, a set of resources. And then there are stories in my book as well from interviews of successful people who were able to cultivate community and build everything from schools to nonprofits who really make big difference, to business leaders. How did they build a high quality connection, and what was the outcome of that? What was the impact? So in every workshop we do polls and we do surveys and we have conversations, and fear is the number one thing that holds people back from building high quality connections. And a lot of people will say fear of rejection, and I quickly redirect that to say it's more likely to be, fear of no response than fear of someone flat out saying no. It's
Yeah.
more likely someone will respond and say, tell me more about what you're looking for. Not sure if I'm the right fit, or this isn't a great time for me, reach out to so-and-so, or come back to me in 3 months. So it's very unlikely that someone's going to just say, nope, totally, no thank you, as long as you put in that effort to connect. Of course, if people are making sales pitches, you get no's all the time, but this is not about a sales pitch. This is about how to be thoughtful about how you
Yeah.
present yourself in a way that the other person sees value and mutual value. So yeah, it's the reversal, but it's okay if we're inevitably going to be put in situations that might be uncomfortable, where I don't feel prepared or I don't know how to respond. What skills can I boost for myself so that when those things happen, I have a blueprint. I've done it before. I know I can do it again. And then, rise to that occasion with a little bit more confidence and preparation.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into a little bit of the knock method. Can you kind of break it out for us and explain what each one of those systems are?
Sure. So the knock method is sort of a mind frame and a framework, a communications framework on how to build high quality career relationships through that opening. It may be that you know someone and you're rekindling that relationship, or it may be that you're continuing a relationship and deepening it in a certain interaction. But in a lot of contexts, it is the first time you're reaching out to someone because you have an idea, you're working on a project, you think you could help each other, you see some commonality there. There might be some goodness that could be there if you could connect. So my online course and workshops that I teach, some of them are on the Outreach for Success framework, which is the knock method. So it is essentially how to write an email to anyone in your career with more intention, with more mutual value, and for high quality connection. And so you can think of that as the outcome of learning this, although you can practice it when you meet, when you connect. So the first step, the first letter in knock is the K, and it is know my topic and my contact. So before you want to reach out to someone, you have to know who they are, a little bit about them. And I have a quote that says, know about someone before you know them. Yes, so know about them before you reach them and you know them. So what that means is you may not know the person, but you know about them because you saw them on LinkedIn, or your mutual contact recommended that you connect for a particular reason. So what can you know about them? Can you ask the mutual contact more about them? Hey, meeting with this person, thanks for the referral. What can I expect? What's their energy going to be like? What's like top of mind for them right now? And I've used that, and it's been very powerful in preparing to meet with some high profile leaders before. And knowing your topics. What are you going to talk about? And I say, keep your answers in your back pocket, your frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
You knock on the door, you reach out, you tell them, here's how I think we could help each other. This would be really, there'd be big impacts of working together. And you highlight commonality, and then they answer the door and they say, sure, yeah, let's have coffee. And then they freeze too. Like,
Yeah. Oh wait, I didn't think I was gonna get what I was
what am I going to
asking
say?
for.
Yes. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. This is so crazy. Like, I did it, and then I got the response I was hoping for, and now I thought like that was the end. Like maybe you expected no, or you just didn't think about beyond the yes.
Yeah.
So so know my topic. What am I going to talk about? So then you're going to meet, and what kind of general questions do you think that they would ask you as a follow-up? And you need to know that. So like the first story in the knock method is about an amazing couple, Jennifer and Jeff in Chicago, who built a school for middle school students who needed they had different learning needs, and their daughter had that need, and they realized there weren't schools in the area that could provide for those needs, and so they set out to build a school. And they had all kinds of questions thrown their way with investors and people in the community. Where's the school? Where's the location? How big is it going to be? How much staff? How many classrooms? How many kids can you take? What's the funding model if people need financial aid? All these things. And until they had some of those answers with a business plan and some of those things in place, they wouldn't be able to get the buy-in or the support to actually make it work. So you have to know a little bit about what you want to talk about, and you have to know about the person so that you can connect what you have a vision for to what is important to them. So that's the K. The N is about shifting focus from yourself to the other person, what's important to them, or to the partnership and the collaboration. So it's not like, hey, I need a job yesterday, can you help? Which sometimes we're in that position and we ask for help, and everyone wants to be helpful, and that's great. It is more about, you've been in this position, I know you have a great career here. I'd love to learn more about it. And if you have any success to share, and perhaps that might help me on my journey to secure a particular position. So you're really like leaning into acknowledging the other person and the value that they have. And it's easier for someone to say, sure, I'll meet with you, when they feel seen and they feel like you're not just reaching out to 50 people. There's a reason why you reached out to them. Mm-hmm. The O is about taking ownership. It's about authenticity, being yourself. Admitting, I haven't really had coffee with an executive before, but I thought that we would have a really great conversation. Maybe I have feedback. Maybe I'm looking for some mentorship, whatever that may be. And it's also about investing in the relationship up front. So like I've listened to the Friday Habit podcast because I wanted to make sure I kind of knew what the conversational style was like, and like, who is Mark? I met him for 2.5 minutes, speed dating at the chamber, right? So you have to know kind of what environment you're going into. And so investing in the relationship, putting action into place to research the people, to watch a YouTube video, to go to the website of the company you want to apply for. So investment. The C is
well,
for common
on that note, I do feel like, especially I've had, when I've put out a call to hire, when we've gotten applications and people are trying to get jobs, here at Brand Viva, it was so interesting to me to like just see the lack of effort that someone put into like even knowing what we do. And some of the stuff that they would talk about in their application or whatever, I was like, did you even go to our website and read about what we do and how you could actually provide value to the company and the team and all those other kind of things? So I think that's a big thing. A lot of times people don't want to put that work in to do the research and to kind of develop the ideas and thoughts about this other person or company or whatever it is. So
Totally. And I'm going to be the unpopular millennial here, but I am a huge fan of cover letters, not only because you have to put in the time to do that, but because it actually helps you prepare for the interview. It helps you prepare, and it also helps you vet whether or not this is an experience or an opportunity that you want to pursue. You might go down the rabbit hole of researching and be like, actually, I don't know why I'm researching this company. I don't actually want to work for them anymore. So yes, it is about that. And the personalization, the humanization, and putting yourself in the shoes of the other person, and really slowing down and taking the time to think through your strategy. So the way that you would strategize about your job search, you can strategize about your connection search, and the way that you build relationships. So you're spending time where it matters, not just for you, but for the other person, for the partnership, for the organization they work for, and for anyone that partnering with them or teaming up with them or connecting with them might anyone who may benefit from that partnership. So think bigger about, like, if we were to connect, we could impact more students, or if we were to connect, we could impact more entrepreneurs who are trying to, build higher quality relationships. And so what is that bigger impact? And so that's a lot more about the rest of the knock method, is that humanization, and then really leaning into, like, what are the grand possibilities of what could happen from this connection, and thinking a little more macro than, I have an idea. If you don't buy into it, I'm going to move on to the next person. Instead, I have an idea. I think you have something you could lend to it, but I love your feedback. And all of a sudden, this new idea becomes a newer idea that's bigger and better and can make a bigger impact and solve more problems. So I say, open the door and leave it open, meaning have ideas in your back pocket of, like, what you can come to that person with, how you could partner. But keep your ear open, as you were talking about your son, I think. Keep your ear open and ask questions and be curious. What do you think of this? Because all of a sudden someone may say something like, that's a great idea, but you know what is a better idea? What if you did this? And all of a sudden, like, now you have the power of collaboration. And so a lot of times we're reaching out with a specific goal, and that is normal, it's human, it's common. And there are so many times where I had canceled the meeting because I had this agenda and I got to the call and they were like, I'm having a terrible day. And I'm like, take the time. Let's meet in 3 weeks. And you know what? After 3 weeks, maybe we come back and, like, it's a whole different conversation. But that's part of the humanization, responding to the human on the other end of the connection. So
Yeah, and this, I think this is really great, not only for if you're in a career or you're working for somebody and you want to advance your career, but then I also think about it too as a small business owner or a freelancer or anybody who's trying to grow their business through relationship. And again, this is something that I practice continually. And it is even, I think when you get thrown into the deep end of a pool, like say in a networking event where it's like, okay, you don't have time to really know
Yes.
who's going to be there.
Totally.
You don't know who you're going to meet. But I think it's the idea of like you put in those reps of knowing your story, knowing the value that you provide to people, and knowing how to articulate what you do is always very beneficial. So even if you, before you go to an event or going to be in a situation where you're meeting new people, it's like practice of the value that you add. And then also, I think the thing that has helped me over the past, few years is refining my I would say, 30-second elevator pitch, right? Like when I meet somebody, one of the things that I did in the past year was I noticed when I said that I had a podcast agency, people like perked up. Like it wasn't just like, oh, I own a creative agency or a digital marketing agency. It's like, okay, I've heard that. I've heard that. But then when I started saying, oh, I own a podcast and video production content agency, all of a sudden it was like, oh, and so that was a cue for me to be like, okay, the next time I meet somebody, I'm going to lead with, I own a podcast and video production content agency. And then that starts a great conversation because now people are curious, like, oh, like you have a podcast? Well, yeah, not only do I have a podcast called The Friday Habit, but I also help people create podcasts, and we help companies create content on a consistent basis, present themselves as an authority figure, and get access to people they normally couldn't get access to. And so those are the kind of things too, I think, as people are practicing and getting ready to go into an event or reach out to somebody, it's kind of like, not only do you want to develop and work out those skills, but then you also want to take cues from what went right, what went wrong from this conversation. Where did you see the energy shift when I was talking about a certain thing, or where did I get excitement about something, and then take note of that and then put that into the next time you have a opportunity to meet somebody or have another connection.
Yes, I experience that all the time where I offer many different services, different training programs on different skills, such as navigating difficult conversations at work, building meaningful connections when connections maybe aren't going exactly how you want them to go. Breaking the Barriers to Meaningful Connection is the name of that training program, as an example. And then we've got Outreach for Success and several others on collaboration. But I have one on an elevator pitch, and it's called the bridge pitch, and it is how to craft that pitch and refine it so that it bridges, it connects to other people, and it's not just here's what I do, here's what I've done. And so I think you were taking those cues, and now you see that. And so one way that you could bridge that is, like, I own a podcast agency, and they perk up. I have a podcast, I do podcasts and video. What stories are you trying to tell in your business? And all of a sudden you listen and you hear what they're trying. And you know what? We've had a hard time communicating X, or we feel like our audience isn't getting our value proposition. And now you have more to talk about. You can connect what you do to what they need and what's important to them. And the other thing I would mention, I think you brought up a great point about the networking event, or maybe it's a happy hour even at work or whatever. If you're not the networking happy hour kind of type, or you don't have time because you have a toddler at home and it's like bed and bath time almost, but we always feel, and even with the speed dating, the program's called Leads Connection at the Denver Metro Chamber, that we feel like we have to just say our whole story in that 2 minutes. And like, I have to close the deal now, or like I have to get a customer. And yes, maybe you are in that position where you're like, I need more customers, that's why I'm here. But if we can slow down and see this as the door opening, and you have an eternity to build that relationship after the 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So just pepper in some of the things that you do, hear what's important to them, see if there's some bridge, some connection, and follow up. And then you have 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour to build that connection. So I'll share one of the tools in the Knock method is building your commonality cup. So I say, like the first time you connect, maybe that first marble in the cup, that's a piece of commonality. You're both at the same event, you listen to the same podcast, you live in the same city, you're both parents, whatever it may be, and then you follow up, and then you have another interaction, and now you start to put more marbles in your commonality cup. And what this image brings to us is this extension, so that this whole concept is building higher quality, long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. And long-term means it can evolve. Maybe today it's a podcast interview, maybe in 3 months it's a client interaction, or I have a referral for you, or whatever it may change. But we can extend one interaction to multiple interactions, and all of a sudden you have a deeper, more high quality relationship. And I think there's a lot of pressure we all put on ourselves, and we often do feel in reality like, I have one call with this exec, I have to make it good. And that's true. But what if you had an opener and a strong sample of your presentation, and you got their interest and saw that there was some way you could partner with them, or you could support each other, or you could bring something new to their team, and therefore you suggest a follow-up call and you could continue that. And I think if we could see things a little bit differently, maybe it would take some pressure off where that fear generates in the first place. And we can see things as longer term, and we just need to remember to slow down and be more human.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Slow down and be more human. And then also, I would say, stay on top of your CRM. You know, what I try to do is I get someone's information, and then I go back and I put them in my CRM and make notes about like, I met their kids, or I met them and they talked about their kids. Like, I need some of those reminders too when you're meeting a lot of people, because one of the things I hate is when I met somebody and then they start asking me all the same questions that I had when I met them again. It's like, we talked about this. Like, remember you asked me about this? And so that's kind of annoying. And so a lot of times I like to put those kind of informations in my CRM. And then again, right, like once you've gotten their business card or connected with them and you find them on LinkedIn and you try to connect with them there, then start doing some of that research, right, to say, hey, it was great meeting you. Like, let's get coffee, or let's come to the studio and let's talk more about like what you're trying to achieve, and then you have more of that information, and so you can be successful in building that relationship. Because again, I think we're coming out of the time of sleazy sales and that kind of internet marketing where we're just trying to scam people into a sale. It's like people want genuine connection, and we see through the BS,
Right.
And so I think it's very important to, again, think of it as that long game, and not just where it's like, oh, I'm trying to close a deal right now, or trying to get a relationship where I can get to a yes. It's like, let me be authentic in my connection and my curiosity with you, so that at some point that we might be able to do business together, or you might see me as somebody who could lead a small team or get a promotion or whatever that might be. So
Totally. And I think another piece of this is, I had a thought and I wanted to jump on your thought, which was something about extending the relationship,
authenticity,
coming
CRM,
back, slowing down. We feel like we are all running so quickly that we don't feel that we have time to slow down. A big question that I get asked is like, then how do I sustain all these relationships, right? And I think that's a big thing when we're moving quickly and we're like, I got to get stuff done and I just don't have time to sustain all these relationships. And to that, I also say, slow down and take a minute. Some people are really afraid to follow up 3 months later, 6 months later, 2 years later. They're like, so much time has passed. I experienced that when I wrote my book, and it took me a total of 6 years from concept to book in hand. It was not like I wrote every day. There were times where I zoomed into the writing, and then I conducted interviews, then I thought about it, and then one of those years was just figuring out my path to publishing and designing, editing, etc. So I was afraid to reach out to people I interviewed years prior. And I think we're wrapping up here, but this is an example where we are afraid to reach back out. And we don't have to maintain all these relationships all the time. There's a natural rhythm in the human relationship where we have permission to reach back out and connect again. And if we can bring in some of those personal details.
Yeah, and for me too, a lot of times it's just really random, right? Like something I might have talked to somebody about, it'll be like I'll see something or hear something and it will just remind me of them. And so I'm very quick to try to just text message somebody, hey, I saw this song and I thought about you,
Exactly.
or and just to kind of loosely build those relationships. And I think that's how you can kind of build those meaningful long-term relationships that turn into great business.
Yes, I love it.
Well, hey, Rebecca, thanks so much for being with us on the Friday Habit and sharing a little bit of your story and your knock method. And again, you're like the jack of all trades, master of all. So, if people wanted to connect with you about developing their personal skills, growing their careers, developing their elevator pitch, what would be a good place for them to reach out and connect?
Yes, thank you for knocking, Mark. And you can go to buildmeaningfulcareers.com. You can explore our trainings, our workshops, our online course. You can reach out for a consult or a demo. We'd love to come into your groups or your associations if you're part of a startup group or a networking group as well. And if you're a business leader, we'd love to support your teams in building higher quality, more meaningful collaboration and connection with customers for everyone's success.
That's fantastic. And listen, if you could give advice, right? Because it's Friday in someone's world, and starting off next week, how can we develop ourselves in order to be better? What was the one thing that you would tell someone to focus on? Like, hey, just work on this one little thing in order to start practicing X, Y, and Z. What would that advice be for them? Like, hey, Monday morning, start doing this.
Before your meeting, go to LinkedIn, go to your internal company directory, do 5 to 10 minutes of quick research before you show up to your meeting. You will feel more prepared, you will have a more meaningful conversation, and the other person will feel like, wow, they really wanted to get to know me and this was worth my time and we're going to build a great relationship together.
We got to know those people.
Know about them before we know them.
That's right. Know about them before we know them. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for being with us. And hey, thanks for you for listening to The Friday Habit. You can go to thefridayhabit.com. There you can find show notes for this episode. You can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can find and download our guide to the Friday Habit system that will show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated working on your business instead of always in your business. So until next time, remember, live every day like it's Friday.